Thank you very much. Next up on new business, the resolution for the Michigan Department of Transportation road diet. I'd ask everybody to take a deep breath, please. You have all been, I'm going to just take a quick second, you've all been very gracious tonight, and I appreciate that. Decorum gets a lot farther than screaming and yelling and throwing things and calling names. And you've all done an excellent job tonight. We've done, now it's going to be our turn. But I appreciate everybody's patience and understanding, and we'll make the process work one way or the other. We'll find out here in just a minute. But Mr. Mackey, if you want to just kind of, or Jason wants to kind of run down through. Jason, why don't you come on up and if you could, give us a quick recap of the meeting that was held last Thursday, June 12th, for those who may not have been able to make it or watch it on video.
Absolutely, thank you. Our last meeting we have discussed several things. The first we'd like to talk about is the funding. Funding will come from the city for this project. There was conversation about the SADs, and what SADs are for local streets. There is no funding for SADs or local streets. Also, the funding for this is going to address issues that may not be just right now, but some of them are. The parking lot we have currently houses 17 cars. We're projecting it to go up to 47 if I remember correctly. We do have a parking problem in the city. Most of our parking lots are dated 45 years or older. Average parking lot is $45,000 to $55,000. Our match for this project is infrastructure that we're going to try to improve on. Besides the parking lot, it's going to be the brick. All the brick they see on the furniture zone from Carlton all the way to Bacon Street, that has been dated as well. That was put in as a 2008 streetscape, and most of that is settled and going out. That is at the city's cost to replace those. Again, not right now, but in the next couple of years that's going to be done. There is some areas that need to be done as well. Cook Street needs a full reconstruction amount of $200,000 to $300,000 for the 4 residents there. That would be a special assessment program. Our thought was the best to vacate that property and put about $20,000 into that to put a parking lot, a drive approach, and to heal in the curb on the highway there to try to save some dollars. Again, on Walden Street as well. So funding resource on that is to really help some of the infrastructure that we're going to have to invest in as well.
Can I ask a couple of questions? And I know council probably has a few that they would like to ask as well. We had a gentleman ask about Cook Street and that little cut in that you're going to put in. Will that be a one-way?
No, it will be wide enough for vehicles in and out.
Okay.
It will be 24 foot wide.
Okay. And secondly, I had a constituent ask me over the weekend, because it really hasn't been brought up, but between Bacon and Steenberg, with the, I'm going to call it the skateboard lane, you know, but will there be parking then put in on that section of Steenberg if we're narrowing down to one lane in each direction, center turn lane, the bike lanes, like the downtown area here? Will there be on the other side of the bike lane, will there be parking available on Broad Street?
So there is an option to go all the way down to Steenberg, parking on both sides of the road. That will be above and beyond what we're asking for the TIP grant, because that will be additional funds needed. We will have the city out to do that, but it is an option.
So that is an option to actually have parking on Broad Street?
On both sides, all the way down.
Sides. Okay. Councilperson Bruns.
One of my big hang-ups on this is the funding. Maybe this is more of a question for Mr. Mackey. Is there no other fund that we can pull from to pay the city's share in order to get the grant?
It would come, it has to come out of our capital improvement fund, which is typically what we either do use for road projects or other building projects. So it would come out of there. Some of it might come out of roads. Our 204 road fund is where it would actually be paid out of, and that's also where we pay for our road projects.
So how has it been maneuvered that TIFA, my understanding is that we're splitting it 50-50, the match with TIFA, at least in the proposals that I've seen. Is that right?
Yes, that has been a proposal that's out there and been discussed, but I've also heard that TIFA's not in a position to actually fund their half. I'm not certain of that, but I have heard that, so. And we're looking at, if the numbers hold true to what the estimates are, it's about 200,000 that our share would be, whether it's the city and TIFA or the city on its own.
Okay, thank you. I mean, yeah, I can't go for this myself until that's resolved. I mean, I would be very hesitant to spend money out of the capital improvement fund on this. And if Tifa's money is up in the air, that makes me even more concerned about it.
Councilperson Wolf.
During the earlier discussion, there wasn't a mention of that we're gonna get somewhere around $800,000, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
From the state?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so just wanted to let people know, this is also gonna add $800,000 to the city.
Yes, sir.
So the total project with all the improvements is anticipated to be $1 million, and we have to contribute 20%. So that's where the 800,000 comes in.
Councilperson Bennett.
This isn't really my issue, but I have heard people talk about it now that Councilman Bruns brings it up again. So Tifa doesn't have the money, and I think I also understood you to say that it's coming out of our road funds, which, what? So that, yes, that's, since we're there, that's what I'll mention, that's incredible.
So Jason, could you explain, because I'm a little fuzzy too, the 204 road fund, is that for local streets or is that, because I know you have different columns of money for different streets in town.
So 204 can be used in major or local streets either way.
Okay.
So this project can be conjoined from multiple. It can be 204, which is major local. It could come out of 101, which is the general fund, which a lot of these will come out of the general fund for the parking lot. It's a 101 account. So a lot of this isn't just in the road funds. It's going to be a general fund out of the capital account.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have anything?
If I may,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So
Yes, sir.
one thing I'd like to point out too, our match is 200,000, but one thing we got to remember, this is 200,000 of our own infrastructure we're putting in. It's not $200,000 you get a grant just to put a road diet in. This is $200,000 up to that we're going to put in for our own infrastructure. That's the way I see it anyway, and I look at it. You know, we definitely need to start somewhere in infrastructure, not just local streets, major streets, but our parking lots as well, and our downtown.
Mr. Bennett.
I would challenge that no one on council understands what you just kind of explained. Like, we don't have that granular understanding of what we are getting for our money. It's been presented to us consistently as a take it or leave it package. And you also just mentioned that there are options for parking on Broad Street. And I may have heard on Thursday that there's gonna be sidewalks along the fence, is that? No? Okay.
I've never heard that story about the
Yeah,
sidewalk. I've
yeah.
heard it too at the last meeting, but that
Okay.
never came through us.
Yeah, there are just so many questions that, again, I don't understand. And the Cook Street, I have so many things, this will be disjointed, so if anybody wants to go first, I don't mean to. The Cook Street egress, is that up by the intersection?
It'll be about 100 foot to the east. Of course, down by the point now.
So closer to the building?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's nothing in the packet, again, for our second meeting in a row. Mr. Beaker is not here. Why is Mr. Beaker not here?
I'm assuming he chose not to be here. I do not know why.
Jason seems to be following this fairly closely, but it appears to me, and maybe I'm wrong, that Mr. Beaker has been the quarterback for this the whole time and has been the negotiator with MDOT and decider, the only decider in our whole town, as far as I can tell. I don't know that the planning commission or Tifa got their hands dirty with this. I don't know that Mr. Mackey understands the nuts and bolts of it. It seems to be just Mr. Beaker, and for the second crucial meeting in a row, including the one that we're scheduled to vote, Mr. Beaker's not here.
I would say on his behalf, at Thursday's meeting, he did mention, and then again, I'm not speaking for him one way or the other, just repeating what he said, was that since 2013, he's just basically following the directive of the TIFA, of the planning commission, and of councils at that time. Yes, it's his job, but if he's told, as he mentioned earlier this year, if you want him to stop, just say stop, and he would. But over the past 12 years, as he put it last Thursday, nobody's told him to stop. It has been a unanimous vote every single time, so he takes that as, okay, they want me to keep going, so he just keeps going. So I don't know if, he's doing it on his own. He's just basically doing what he's been told to do, is what, the way he put it last Thursday.
Thank you. There's something to that. I might characterize it differently. The meeting in December of 23, which, I hear this 10 years talk, but for all practical purposes, this process began when he requested to do the traffic study for $13,000 in December of 23. And then, as far as I've seen, the council didn't deal with it again until they dealt with it for, if I remember correctly, 4 minutes in June of 24, and they just waved it through. Nobody was involved, and certainly, as I say, the public didn't know. And to address one of the points of Mr. Robson, my ignorance upon taking the seat, I would say, is a demonstration of the people didn't know. I believe Bob, Chair, Councilman Flynn,
Bob works.
that you also didn't know when we brought it up in December when we were talking about parking for the Kiefer. That's the first time it came to your attention and my attention. Is that fair?
That's the way I remember it, yes.
If you expect the median citizen of Hillsdale to be more informed than Bob Flynn, you're mistaken. Again, I don't know that I have any more questions for you, Jason, so thank you. I may, you don't understand, because this might take a minute, so.
Jason, while you're standing there though, so ignoring that information, could you kind of recap what's going to happen here at the corner of Carlton and Broad? I've had a lot of people ask, is it going to be easier to cross there than it is now? Is there going to be different signage? Is there going to be different lights? What is going to happen down here to try to make pedestrians, because again, we just had 500 people show up over the weekend on the train, and I understand it's a Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, not as busy traffic, but still, it's like playing Frogger out there at times to get across. So what is going to happen down here if approved?
Absolutely. So I'd like to start with this intersection is the bottleneck right now that we have in the city. It essentially is 3 lanes. One southbound, 2 northbound, or actually, I'm sorry, 1 northbound, 1 eastbound. So to help alleviate that, I'm trying to go by memory, so I apologize. We're going to extend the radius out on this side so semis can make the right-hand turn. It will be the buffer lane, bicycle lanes, so pedestrians will not have to frog, if you will, through 4 lanes of traffic. There's going to be buffer space that they can, which should not be occupied, or will not be occupied, should not be occupied by vehicle traffic. To accommodate the left turn lane there and the pedestrians and bicycle, the traffic lights are going to go up this intersection as well in timing and such. Now this one, there is going to be a lag on this one. And again, it's already a lag now. It's about, I think we heard in the meeting, 7 to 14 seconds if I remember right. So this is going to be the bottleneck regardless of what we do. Anything else on that one?
No, I just couldn't remember what all was gonna happen right now.
Oh, gotcha.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything? Councilman, well, let's go with Councilman Stucci real quick.
I just want to, the MDOT meeting we had last week, I just want to thank everybody from the city was there, and people who came to the meeting. I thought it was very well done. I thought the cards for question was a great idea, because it took emotions out. You just heard the question, but now a lot of vamped up voices. And Chief did an excellent job, Jason, and Alan did a great job answering all the questions. There's a lot of misunderstanding. It's obvious, a lot of misunderstanding how this project works. But my biggest thing, I think this council at one time, safety was the #1 priority for this city. We wanted to make sure our citizens were safe and had all the right equipment to make this safe. This system out here is not safe. And I gotta believe, what I've seen and talking to Chief and Jim, it's a much safer system when you're making left-hand turns, pedestrians walking across the street. Yes, God forbid, we're gonna be a few more seconds later, and it's gonna be a little slower and more congested. Oh, God forbid, we can't get there another 30 seconds faster. We're not brain surgeons, folks. We don't have to be someplace that quick. So, I think we're overlooking the overall safety factor of this project. It's crucial to our downtown. It applies to economic development, walkability, all of these good things. So we're getting lost in a lot of emotion. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Benton.
To address some of Councilman Stucci's points, those of us who are strongly against the road diet do not concede that we are giving up the safety. We have grave concerns that we are putting some at risk, and we are not responsible for the accidents that have happened and will happen unless we were directly involved. But if council does this drastic change, and there, as one of the public said, there's a bike, I believe it was Mayor Sessions maybe, and there's a bike incident out there, like if this goes south, that is on this council's conscience. And to address the meeting, in our previous meeting, June 2nd, we spent, according to my calculations, all but 15 minutes discussing the upcoming public forum. And we talked about it at the library, as being at the library, and getting a podium there for the public to come and speak into the microphone, and various other things. The vast majority of the 15 minutes was about the logistics of the meeting. The meeting that actually happened on Thursday bore no resemblance to our discussion. We are city council. When we are supposed to, it's our responsibility to do these things and to have them carried out in the way we discussed. And we all seem to understand each other. Mayor Pro Tem, City Manager Mackey, the attorney, Lovinger, was sitting in, and the misinformation that we engaged in, and that was on YouTube, and that where perhaps most of the citizens, learn their information just from watching us. I don't know if that's true, but they were misinformed. And then we had a series of emails from, I believe, 3 or 4 from the city manager and 1 from the attorney, and the attorneys contradicted the city managers, and the attorney, after patronizingly telling Bob that it's an open meeting, in the email he said, well, no, you have to run it as a council meeting, and then in the event, it was none of the above. So there's grave questions about whether public service, the public notice aspect of that meeting was legitimate. And the, what's it called? I'm not a lawyer, I believe it's the administrative, I have it somewhere here. The Administrative Procedures Act, I believe. Whether any of that was, so I don't know if MDOT might have an opinion about that. They're not here again, but we didn't expect them. But I don't know if that meeting was legitimate. There was nothing about this in this packet, and the website, as I saw it, the 10 slides remain the 10 slides that they always were. They're still up there. I didn't look closely, but I saw Cook Street and the police parking lot the same as it's always been. So we hear about these adjustments. Jason mentioned that there are still options. I don't know how there's options still if we're expected to vote on the plan that none of us understands. So, spoiler, what I'm going for here is to delay the vote and I'll lay out my reasons. One of them is because Mayor Pro Tem is not here, and that seems important. It's very important, and it needs a signature. The resolution, I guess that can wait or not, I don't know. But I'd like his voice and his vote on this issue. I guess one of my biggest hang-ups is that we were told by Manager Mackey and Beaker, we've been told a number of times that the deadline is June 30. And then at the Thursday meeting with the little written cards, somebody asked, why is the deadline June 30? MDOT had no idea what that was about. That's an arbitrary, is it a lie? It seems like a lie. We were told that's why we had to rush that Thursday meeting, and that certainly had a lot to do with the way the meeting went. And we had to rush this vote because of the deadline. And I believe, Manager Mackey, maybe you would like to concede the fact that there is no June 30th deadline?
I don't have an answer to your question, Councilman. Because as you know, I wasn't at the meeting and I did not hear the discussion on that. But my understanding is June 30th was the deadline, and that's why we have it on this agenda, and that's why we had last Thursday's meeting.
So it's your excuse me, it's your contention that you don't know where the June 30 deadline came? Because I have the email of June 3rd, the day after our meeting, and here's one of your lines. There is no ability to change the date because of the tight timeline we are on with a final grant submittal of June 30th.
Yes, and that is what Mr. Beaker has relayed to us, and that's what was relayed to him by the state. Now, if the state did not stick with that on last Thursday, that's another question, but our understanding is June 30th is the deadline.
Interesting. Yes. Not only did MDOT, they were baffled. They had no idea what it was talking about, because I'll remind everyone, ground is to be broken in spring of 2027. There is no rush. We can wait. We can understand it better. The people can understand it better. Mayor Pro Tem can be here. There is no reason to vote on this tonight. Let me respond to some of the comments from the public, starting with, I believe, Mr. Robson. He took issue with, and by the way, I would like to, since it's come up 2 or 3 times, my editorial, which is a response to his op-ed in the Hillsdalean, I'd like them both entered into the minutes, or however you do such things, Katie. Thank you. The political legitimacy, I can see from his perspective, because he is well informed and he is a stakeholder, it seems from the outside, and his staff is said all along, we're checking the boxes according to MDOT's dictates. What I mean by political legitimacy is that the staff has been hiding the ball, certainly for the 6 months since I voiced my opposition to this. And I have a long litany of such malfeasance. accidents that Mr. Robson mentioned, I don't think I remember all three of them. The chief of police on the Thursday meeting said that the snowplow incident, there was no corroboration of a big truck running off the Hillsdale County snowplow into those 3 parked cars. And there were no injuries. And this Friday incident, I talked to Gas Chief about that. I don't have a full understanding, but the abbreviated version is that someone ran a red light. So that happens, that will continue to happen. That doesn't have anything to do with the road either. To address Mr. Moore, well, I found it interesting that Mr. Robson did not voice his objection to my use of the word arrogant, but Mr. Moore took great offense at it. I would only say, if the shoe fits. He mentioned that I used arbitrary in some context. Let me read you the context. They did not request to have the major artery, the people, they did not request to have the major artery through town arbitrarily constricted for the imagined benefit of an arrogant few who mean to impose their vision of a bright, beautiful, boutique future, regardless of the lives of the actual current residents of the Hillsdale area. Arbitrarily constricted. It is arbitrarily constricted to slow down traffic. Other municipalities, Mrs. Hardway addressed that. You ask the people that pushed for and wanted the traffic calming plans. Mr. Soha spoke to any number of them. Surprise, the people who benefit from it will say they like it. The people who don't like it, as she demonstrated in Coldwater, to my satisfaction anyway. The TIFA money, yes, Mr. Veer talked about the TIFA money, and we find out tonight that TIFA doesn't have the money. That's a strange thing that I'm going to leave in Mr. Bruns' capable hands. Mrs. Wolfram had very nice comments about the beauty of Hillsdale and the history of Hillsdale, and I wholeheartedly agree. This is a nice, beautiful place, and it's always had Broad Street. Somebody was talking about it, I guess Mrs. Wolfram here also, cutting, the highway was cutting through. MDOT's gonna do what MDOT does, and when they claimed their road and called it a highway and it's a truck route, we don't have the ability to override that. It will remain a truck route and a Michigan highway. Somebody mentioned litigation, and I've heard such rumors also. The people are very, very upset with this, and
This is a filibuster. Do you want to vote tonight?
I don't know.
Well, let's get to a point. Every point that you go, let's move on. Let's get to your.
Boo! Nah, let him talk. Let him talk.
Sorry.
People want to hear him.
A filibuster lacks content. I'm trying to bring some content.
Don't be so emotional.
If you would please, we appreciate it, thank you.
With all due respect, Councilman Soha, I would ask you to recuse yourself from this vote if we have it tonight, which I hope we don't. I would like to quote you from the December 2023 council meeting when Mr. Beaker requested this. This is Councilman Soha. I'd just like to make a statement. Living on South Broad Street, cars are always racing to make the light, and I've screamed at them more than once. but I mean, they're up to 50, 60 miles an hour by the time they pass my house, and motorcycles too. And having a single lane traffic where they're going to be stymied by a tractor trailer or something else is very attractive to me. So the reason I ask you to consider recusing is because you expressed an emotional, very personal emotional benefit and a presumed financial benefit for your property value on South Broad. Yes, when we were talking about this at the library meeting in January, the numbers we were hearing then were we would pay our 20%, and the total was $395,894. I don't know how it got to $1 million. I don't know if council did that. I don't remember when or how that might have happened. Again, to reiterate my main point, there is no urgency. We ought not vote tonight. I would like to understand the plan better, and I move that we table the resolution until a further meeting.
So we have a motion
I second.
and a second to table the vote for tonight. Councilman Suchin.
Just a question for city manager, can we do, do we have the time frame to do this, to table it?
Again, my understanding is that we had to, according to MDOT, approve or not approve by June 30th. And if we want to have another meeting, you could do it at a special meeting.
Councilperson.
Sorry, Jason, can you corroborate for me that MDOT had no idea what June 30th was, and Beaker gave a full concession that that was not real, that it was an internal deadline?
So, I think how it came in, and again, I'm gonna call MDOT, and I really wanna talk to you about this, but I know for design and bid letting, that was, and forgive me, I could be 100% off raises, because I didn't talk to him, Alan did. But I think June 30th is the deadline to make sure we could hit a design and bid letting, which bid letting will have to come out with this budget year to be 2077 project. That's what I think.
Thank you. And again, I need to point out, Mr. Beaker is not here at this most crucial time, and he was not here at the last crucial time, which was a previous meeting, I believe. And we're told that we had to have that MDOT meeting on Thursday, and that we have to vote today, and those are not true. And Mayor Pro Tem is not here.
Mr. Bruns?
Sorry, Jason, I just didn't quite catch what you said, a designed bid.
Designing for design and bid letting. So MDOT's gonna do all the engineering on this project as well. So it has to be engineered and then put out for bid letting. That'll probably go out in the springtime to get a contract on board for the 2027 project. And again, one thing too, we can talk with Alan on this when we get back, but I do know some of this is really like falling on me going forward. As this comes off Alan and Tifa in the design phase, this is going to be more on the Department of Public Services. So that might be why Alan's not here as well, because they will fall on my shoulders or the city's more than on the planning.
No, Jason, you're taking on more jobs all the time. Is it true that Mr. Beaker is on the verge of retirement?
The answer to that is he will be retiring soon.
Jason, while you have a quick minute, and before we go on the motion, so we have a motion on the floor, just to answer a couple other questions from the audience that were brought up at the June 12th meeting. A couple people mentioned trying to lower the speed limit. One gentleman asked about putting a traffic light at Hallett Street. MDOT said no to all of that, because even I asked those questions. Could you give a brief recap as to why? Because I know it has something to do with state legislation and things like that.
Absolutely. I'm just writing this down real quick. So real quick, to go back to your question about this intersection right here, to help alleviate the bottleneck, the proposal was to put 2 left turn lanes in there as well. So as traffic gets down here, to help alleviate that 14 seconds as much as we can, there'll be 2 left turn lanes to go northbound on traffic. To lower the speed is done by 85th percentile in the state. It's all across the federal. So 85th percentile, this street will not be 30 miles an hour as it comes through town. It's going to be more like 45, 50.
And what do you mean by 85th percentile?
So the speed of 85 out of 100 people, that's going to be the same. That's what it's going to be at.
So if they're speeding through town at 40 miles an hour, 85% of them, then MDOT's going to say that's the speed the traffic needs to move in that area.
Yeah, so Michigan State Police will do that study. It goes through them. That's how it goes through. But they'll never go down. They'll be raised.
Okay. And a traffic light at Hallett Street.
So traffic light, and Chief Hettner kind of answered this on our meeting as well. It's only going to slow them down so they get there and stop and speed back up again. There's such a lag between there and as you get to Bacon, they're just going to be back up to speed again. Again, years ago we had one there, a blinking light. We had it for the fairgrounds as well. That's not the answer that's going to fix that problem with speed. It was brought up also for do cameras, the ticket cameras. Those are illegal in the state of Michigan. We can't do those through the Michigan legislature, which brought up at that meeting as well. Was there a couple other questions you can think of?
I cannot. Does anybody else have any questions for Jason? Mr. Bennett?
Yes, thank you. Jason, I'm still struggling to understand the basic structure of the $1 million. Is it fair to say that, so they're going to repave, and one way or another, they're going to stripe or restripe on their dime? That's all on their dime?
Yes, sir.
So the $1 million, do I understand correctly that the $1 million goes to this silly Waldron Budlong non-fix, closing off Cook Street, putting in the egress, the two-way, which you quoted as $8,000, and fixing the triangle parking lot? Is that where our $1 million is going?
So remember too, it's the road that's going to come around City Hall all the way to Oak Street as well. So all that improved in the brick in the downtown, it's going to replace all the handholds for electric and irrigation in the downtown system. There's more on that as well than just that.
Wow, that's encouraging. It's gonna go all the way to Oak Street, because I've heard a proposal that Oak Street to McCullum. I wonder if MDOT would be interested in Oak Street to McCullum as part of their walkable, bikeable, big, beautiful corridor. So I would like to explore that further too, because I believe that opening up the corridor between Oak Street and McCullum would bring large benefits to everyone. And then, also presumably if we could fix Ferris Street into something other than a ghetto and have ingress and egress, that corridor between McCullum and Oak would alleviate this intersection 30%, 25%. I think Hillsdale, coming down Hillsdale, people would prefer to go that way. Be that as it may, and the Rotary Park is going to be there now. And anyway, consider the corridor and the benefits that may come from it. But I'm curious right now that it touches MDOT's project, so they might be interested. But back to my question, is the $1 million going to Budlong Waldron, closing Cook Street, and the post office parking lot? Does that get us to $1 million?
No, that's part of this as well.
Which?
The road that going to Oak Street, because this run is going to be all the way on us, because it's not on the highway.
Oh, the repaving or whatever?
The repaving and everything, this would be on us, correct?
I see. From that intersection to Oak Street.
Yes, sir.
Does that mean anything major? It doesn't even occur to me that that's in the
Yeah,
top anything for our needs of repaving. It seems to be in good shape. I don't know what infrastructure underneath
Yeah,
is.
it's rated a 2 on the Pager scale. It's in full reconstruct. It's got storm issues on both sides of the road.
Okay, so,
Oh, so sorry.
no, please.
We tried to get a grant to actually fix and restore that road the last couple of years as well. And we were successful in that grant.
Yeah, no, so, but is the outline of the structure that I'm laying out, is that about right? We're letting them put in the bike lanes, and in return, we have $1 million to play with that Mr. Beaker seemingly unilaterally chose to put into Budlong Waldron, just closing Cook Street apparently, so I don't know why that costs more than 10 grand. And the parking lot, and then a little paving on Carlton to the east. Is that right?
So if I may, a lot of those closures actually was made, and then the Waldron Street, the Cook Street, those came from me. Alan had nothing to do with us. He just threw them in there. So again, it's all in a whole. It's the piece rate that's going through that gets us to that $1 million.
Yes, but my question is, MDOT came with this proposal, put in bike lanes, we'll restrict the road for you, and we'll give you $800,000, and you match it with 200, and do with it as you please. Is that basically what the story is?
No, a lot of it was because it has to be non-participating pedestrian based. That's why we did the parking lot over there was the big driver was over there, which would help solve the pedestrian. Well, it was a non-motorized road, and then also help improve the parking in the downtown.
Okay, but you're not really refuting my assertion that $1 million, 200 of ours, 800 of theirs, you, and thank you very much for taking ownership of the Budlong Waldron and the Cook Street. Just arbitrarily chose, nobody on council was consulted, like, you guys, like, it fit the constraints of the $1 million, and so you chose to add those projects to it essentially.
Yeah, so I chose them because over the maintenance that we do on the highway through our staff, through BPU staff, it was logistically at least put it in the grade to see what could happen.
Councilman Bentley?
There's a motion and a second that we need to address. If we could have a vote on that and move forward, I appreciate it.
Okay. So, okay, thank you, sir. So we do have a motion on the floor, made by Councilman Bentley to table tonight's vote on the road diet resolution and push it back to the July 7th meeting. Well, let me take that back, just to table it. We have not decided if we're going to push it back to the July 7th meeting or have a special meeting between here and there. We have a second from Councilman Bruns. Mr. Bentley.
Forgive me, last point. In the interim, I would like to send it to an ad hoc committee made up of Councilman Flynn and myself, and perhaps Mr. Robson, and the Chief of Police, and maybe Mr. Gelser, for
But
instance.
I think before we decide that, we need to decide on the motion.
Right.
Then we can talk about that later.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But to my point of like, I'm not just tabling it to do nothing, I'd like.
I understand, but the motion is to just
Yes.
table the meeting, or
Thank you.
the vote for tonight in a second. So, Katie, we'll take a roll call vote, please, on the tabling of the votes on the road diet resolution, please. Okay, point of clarification, Mr. Soha.
I think just yes means we're tabling it, no means we're not.
Correct. A yes vote means that we will table the vote until further notice, and then we'll get to that here in a minute. Katie, roll call vote, please.
Councilman Soha.
No.
Stuchel.
No.
Wolfram.
No.
Bentley.
Yes.
Bruns.
Yes.
Flynn.
Yes.
Morrissey.
No.
That's 4-3, that fails.
So that means we will, if we get a motion, then we will vote on the road diet resolution tonight. unless another motion is made to do something else. Councilperson Stucci.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to make a motion to. Go ahead.
I just haven't said anything yet before motions made.
Okay, Councilman
Appreciate
Sullivan.
the opportunity, so thank you. So, yes, I said that, I stand by what I said. Tom, would you speak to my legal, I must vote on this, I'm required to vote on this.
You have a duty to vote, you don't have any kind of legal conflict that prevents you to vote, so you have a duty to vote.
Thank you for that clarification. So Councilman Stuchel mentioned it, one of the young men, Josh mentioned it about him living there and public safety. I just wanted to be known, 3 weeks ago, I almost hit a man, getting out of his car right in front of St. Anthony's, because I was in the right-hand lane, and I have a big SUV, and I had a big SUV right next to me, and we left the light. I was only doing about 20 miles an hour, but my 6,000-pound vehicle, you don't walk away from that, right? And he opened his door and got out of his car. I was right on top of him. I had to stand on my brakes. Thankfully, I wasn't distracted. I was that close. And he stared at me as if I was in the wrong, which I find incredulous, but nevertheless, public safety has been one of my, that's why I've been on the public safety committee my entire time on council. This is why I, voted to keep people from sleeping in our public spaces, because I find that of paramount importance. But I'm really, it's overwhelmingly 14-4 here at the meeting, for and against, and I would love to have a protected left turn going into my house so I'm not rear-ended one day, and I would love to have a buffer downtown for the pedestrian or for the people who parallel park on Broad Street, so that they have an extra few feet. The conjecture of a bicycle accident, or the conjecture of even me with the conjecture that it's just a matter of time before some kid runs out between the cars on a Sunday at St. Anthony's, and accidents happen, and I pray to God I'm wrong in that, but I've seen so many close calls over the years, but I have to take in consideration 2 of my neighbors on Broad Street were opposed to it adamantly, and I got to take into consideration, it was suggested that the money, the $200,000 coming out of the general fund or the road fund, when we have all these other roads that we need to address in the city that are failing, and if council's not aware, the state of Michigan is going to pave and stripe Broad Street whether we do this or not. It'll just maintain its same form, and we won't get the parking lot, and we won't get this part of Carlton to the east here, and that makes me think of a lot of the arguments about traffic and safety, and it just shocks me at how selfish we are as a culture, where we're worried about 30 seconds. And I'm not talking about us individually, I just mean it's our general culture. It's the culture of the United States. You get on the interstate, especially in the major metropolitan areas, and people are zipping by you at 80, 90 miles an hour when the speed limit is 65 or 70. So we just have this fast food, do it my way culture, and having a protected left turn lane where people aren't at the last minute dodging to avoid it, I like the idea of that. But, for the city to readdress it, or the state to come back to us you know, it's gonna be another generation before that happens if we don't implement this now. And so I have all those things to consider. I don't like the idea of $200,000 coming out of the general fund to pay for this when we're assessing special assessment districts for our, you know, our neighborhoods. And when I learned that, I guess I hadn't understood it fully before, but that's been really a difficult thing for me to vote in favor of. And some of the arguments here have not persuaded me, but they're definitely persuading me. I guess they are persuading me. The Tifa board doesn't have any money right now. So much so that Mr. Weir came out and said he applied for a grant for his facade. The Tifa board, I was on the Tifa board, and these grants are up to $10,000, up to 50% of the cost of the facade. And to Mr. Weir's point, the Tifa board's funded through the property taxes of the businesses in the Tifa district, which was defined by council years ago. And he was awarded $6,000 to fix his $20,000 project. And that was all the money that Tifa had, from my understanding. And then, you know, with things that are happening and Tifa having paid off its loans, they're supposed to have money again starting next year, maybe. But the Tifa board would have to vote to appropriate the funds. And then again, it was suggested here tonight, well, maybe it was Mr. Veer, I don't remember. The Tifa can only spend the funds within the district. So I guess you could say if we're doing, you know, Carlton here in the parking lot, if those $200,000 or $100,000 was spent there, but I don't know, it just seems, I cannot, not after all the fuller information I received tonight, I can't spend $200,000 out of the city's funds when the road's gonna get repaid for free. And that's where I stand.
Thank you, Councilman Soha. So we are, anybody else have anything they'd like to say in regards to the road? Councilperson Morrison.
Yeah, I was leaning against this, but I'm doing the opposite of what Councilman Soha is saying. I'm in favor of it because these road diets have been around for 45 years now, and they've been extensively studied. The statistics or the data are pretty firm on them, which is that they do substantially reduce the number of collisions when you have a road diet. Nearly 20% in large cities and over 40% in smaller cities. So the money that we would spend would go to traffic safety. The other arguments I'm not too impressed with, but that one is the decisive one for me.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Councilperson Stuchel.
I just want to add to that, like Mr. Solov said, he almost killed a man. And I gotta believe that if he would have, his vote would be different tonight, over $200,000. The thing is, we're blessed that nobody has been killed. And I think we've all seen people close calls. And there was a time in my career, I was a safety director for Keller North America. The number one thing you did when you had an unsafe condition was try to engineer it out. That's what this road diet does. It helps engineer out unsafe conditions. Nobody wants to see anybody get hurt. Even if you're against this road diet, I know that. But you're gonna engineer out potential. You're gonna reduce the potential of somebody getting seriously injured, if not killed. I just think it's a blessing that it hasn't happened yet. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else with any comments? Councilperson Wolf.
Yes, I think it's very important that we go ahead and do this road diet for a number of reasons, but one of which we've already talked about, how it improves the safety. Two is we're going to get $800,000 from the state to help to do the project. And I think that it's very important that we actually improve the quality of downtown. And I think that this will, in fact, improve the quality of downtown. As Luke pointed out earlier, you don't have this noise coming through, you don't have people, you can't hear because you're, at some restaurant or something like that, and there's all this noise coming through. But I do think it'll make it so that will improve the people shopping downtown as well. And I think it'll really help the property values in downtown.
Thank you, Councilman Wolfram. Councilman Bentley.
Yes, I'd just like to address a couple things Councilman Wolfram said. Again, we don't concede that it will be safer. And we also would like the downtown to blossom, just not at the expense of south of Bacon. If we could find solutions for the downtown to calm traffic, I would be open to that. I will not sacrifice south of Bacon all the way to Steenburg for a farce. Sorry.
For a farce, I don't understand what's a farce.
That bike lanes or parking are necessary between Steenburg and Bacon.
Bike lanes aren't necessary at all except for the state's funding.
Right. That's what I meant, that farce.
But, and also, to that point, pretty much every argument is conjecture, right? Nobody knows for certain, except Mr. Robson's station points about other communities, and to Mrs. Parkway, who did I don't have that with me, but I'll get that to you. So who I talked with and what communities. But yeah, I really think your opposition is misguided. I really believe the road diet would be a benefit to the city and the community, but when so many of my own constituents and my neighbors disagree with me, tonight I have a hard time imposing my will over theirs. So.
Thank you, Councilman Soha. Councilman Morris.
One thing that is not conjectural are the data that the Federal Highway Administration has collected over the years of these diets. 17% reduction in collisions in major cities and 47% in smaller municipalities.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Councilman Wolfram.
I just have a question. When would the next cycle be for the grant?
If I know I have an answer to that, I apologize.
Councilman Bentley.
I have a partial answer. The way I heard MDOT say it, there's no pressure at all. I got the impression, I'm not going to quote them as saying this, but if this went on into the winter, if our discussions, they were not breathing down our necks. And the gentleman that runs the department, he said, well, never mind, let's get on.
Yes, Councilman Stucci.
If the 30th is out there, David, can we postpone the meeting and have a special meeting on the 30th if we need it? If there's a deadline that's out there in August, then we can continue on and pull this team together, take another look at it. I mean, right now I'm under the impression the 30th is the deadline.
That is the impression that I have. Now, whether it would change any decision the council makes is another question, and whether or not this would proceed.
I guess I would ask if we could entertain yet another motion to table, if we've already shot down a motion to table. Can you have another motion for the exact same thing?
I would say no. I mean, you have some rules that allow for that under particular circumstances.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Change is hard. Everybody hates change. I hate change. Many of you in this room may not remember a gentleman by the name of Bud Van Horn. Bud Van Horn ran the funeral home when it used to be Van Horn's before the Eagle family took over, back in the 40s, 50s. He also ran an ambulance out of the back end of that. I always found that ironic that he was either taking him to the hospital or to his place. So he was making money regardless. You know, smart man, Bud Van Horn. But he petitioned the city back in the day, and I don't remember exactly when, to turn Manning Street and West Street into one-way streets. Before then, they were two-way. His thinking was that if he had Manning Street one way to the hospital, his ambulance wouldn't have to stop and worry about oncoming traffic. And he could also pull out the back end of his funeral home onto West Street and make that one way to wherever he needed to go. There was a lot of opposition against it then, but it was passed, and people got used to it. I'm not saying that it was the right decision or wrong decision. People got used to it. I remember sitting in that desk right there 30-ish years ago, and this place was packed with people in regards to a street project that they wanted to do right over here. And everybody was against it, except for council. Council voted yes. And the project got done. There was screaming, there was hollering, there was finger pointing, there was name calling. But people got used to it. I will be brutally honest with you. I had no idea how I was going to vote on this until 2 o'clock this afternoon, when I about did the one thing a car salesman should never ever do, and that's totally destroy a brand spanking new 2025 car that you got on a test drive with a 71-year-old woman. But we were coming southbound, or northbound, my apologies, on Broad Street. We came through the light at Bacon. She decided to get over into the inside lane, anticipating that eventually she'd get down here and make the left, which is basically, once you get past McCollum, it's one lane anyway. There's the odd car that goes either to the post office or makes the right into Carlton, but when you look at it, 9 cars out of 10 are going to make a left onto Carlton Road. So from McCollum to here, it's one lane anyway, at least coming this way. So she got over the car and doing the 30 miles per hour. She slowed down because the light had just turned yellow. Well, the car behind her decided that he didn't want to wait for that yellow light. Nearly pushed us into the intersection, screamed around us, horn blinking, finger flying, and actually after about 4 seconds of that light being red, still blew right through that red light. I was kind of hoping there'd be a police officer there. There was not. Never is, as we always say, never a cop around when you need one. And that finger stood outside his window all the way down to City Hall, where he had to stop for the red light. So when it turned green, we pulled up right behind him. And she snuggled up right. Yeah. But anyway, so those things won't happen with this road guy. At least we hope they won't. My wife almost got ran over Sunday when traffic is low on Carlton Road, as we were trying to enjoy the train. We were trying to cross, and I, believe it or not, got stuck talking to somebody. So she decided to go ahead and had the right of way to cross the 4 lanes of Carlton, and people decided that they didn't want to stop at the stoplight and almost squished my wife. Does it make sense between Bacon and Steenberg? Absolutely not. I apologize to those of you who live in that area. I apologize to those of you who live in that area. To me, in my brain, it makes no sense. From Bacon Street to Carlton Road, it makes 100% sense, especially with the parking area over here that we're going to do, the mess that is the traffic around City Hall. I just think, and plus, it's one lane anyway, coming this way. As I mentioned at a meeting, a couple of meetings ago, when we were talking about putting some money away to help fix the streets, it may not seem a smart thing to do today, but I think that 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, when our down, and I firmly agree that we're gonna fix our downtown. There will be more businesses, there will be more foot traffic. And I know that people say that Hillsdale is dying and that our population is shrinking, and it upsets me when people on council actually quote me numbers saying that we're a dying city. Well, if you don't like the city, then why are you on council? But, you know, I firmly believe, and I have for 63 years, that our downtown is gonna come back. It's not gonna be like it was when Penny's and Ward's and Sears were here, for those of you who remember. But I firmly believe our city's coming back. And to help with that, this road diet today will help with that. Does it suck? In parts, yes. In parts, no. Are you gonna be mad about it? Yep. But we're gonna get used to it, and I honestly believe that after a while, we're gonna see that 2 days out of the year, it might back up at the fairgrounds. 2 days out of the year. Will it back up at 15 or 20 seconds? That 14 seconds that MDOT made everybody laugh, including me. It's gonna be a little longer. But if it takes you 5 minutes to get through downtown instead of 4, you know, move to Metro Detroit and try to go a mile, you know, in with a 14-second delay. Ain't gonna happen. I really think that to get what we need for our downtown, you have to unfortunately take some of the stuff that you may not agree with. So I truly believe in our downtown, and I truly believe that this is going to help. Do we need to take $200,000 out of our general fund? Yep. You know, but I'm hoping that, you know, that if we get those more businesses downtown, that's going to bring in increased tax revenue, and we can refill that. I kind of actually feel sorry for Mr. Robson. The man pays over $1 million in property tax, because all those buildings that he bought downtown, that's uncapped. All of those taxes. So now he has the joy of being the second highest taxpayer for the city of Hillsdale, right behind Meyer. Okay? I don't want to be that guy. You know, but he wouldn't spend $1.2 or $1.3 million of his own money if he didn't believe in downtown. And I'm not just saying him, but all those other businesses downtown are paying taxes as well, because they want to be able to see people come back downtown and be in their businesses, spend their money, and help us flourish. And I truly think this will do just that. Now, ma'am, I do want to say that in all the years I have covered City Hall for WCSR, which has been over 40 years, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first protest sign I have seen in council chambers. So I want to congratulate you for doing something. Yeah. We will agree to disagree on the contents of your sign, but I just want to say thank you for bringing that, you know, because that's a first. And it shows that we can all be for or against a certain something. We can all be civil, and we can all state our case, and we're not all going to get what we always want, but this, I think, is going to be a good thing for the city.
Mr. Chair.
Me? Yes, sir. Tom, I'm sorry.
So I did pull up your council rules, and so you could have someone who was on the side that carried the motion, or in effect voted no in terms of the motion to table the issue. Once during the meeting, someone who was on that side could make a motion to reconsider whether or not to table it.
So Councilman Stuchel, since you brought it up, since you voted no the first time, if you would like to reconsider and make a motion to table this until we can set a special hearing or something, that is totally up to you. You have the legal opportunity to do that.
No, thank you.
I do not believe, though, that we yet have a motion on the floor to vote on this, do we?
No.
I don't think anybody has made a motion yet, so. I would entertain a motion on the road diet resolution if somebody would like to make one.
I'll make the motion to move this forward.
Now a second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilman Stuchel to vote on the resolution for the Michigan Department of Transportation Traffic Calming Plan. And I have a second from Councilman Wolfen. Do I have any other comments, questions, concerns? Councilman Soha.
Councilman Flynn, I really appreciate what you said. It's very persuasive. And I just want it on record, I am in favor of this road. I think it's good for the city for every reason that Councilman Flynn suggested and more. But like I said earlier, men that live, or my neighbors and I represent, have asked me to vote no, and so I can't ignore that.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? If not, then Katie, a roll call vote, please.
Yes, Councilmember Morrissey,
Yes.
Soha,
No.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Wolfram,
Yes.
Bentley,
No.
Bruns,
No.
and Flynn.
Yes.
It's 4-3, that's approved. That's resolution 364. 4-3.
4-3?